to our Mindful Loving video series. This series is based on our book, Mindful Loving, A Guide to Loving with Passion and Purpose. And I'm Di.
And I'm Kathleen. If you haven't had a chance to view our other video on explaining mindful loving, we really encourage you to check that one out. Today's video is about loving communication. Loving communication is one of the basic components of a mindful loving relationship. Communication is about how we connect in our world, how we connect with others. We communicate in many different ways, verbally or non-verbally. We communicate with our words, we communicate with our facial expressions, body language. We can communicate in written ways like in texting or in emails or love letters. Loving communication is a way that we communicate with intention and attention to what we are saying and what we want to say to our partners. Loving communication allows us to feel greater trust, vulnerability, and acceptance in our relationship. This kind of communication really does lead to greater intimacy. And when we have greater intimacy, we have stronger, better connections. But intimacy with another has to start with intimacy with self. And intimacy with self is about really loving ourselves. In order to love ourselves, that means loving ourselves with acceptance and non-judgmental attitude about all of our negative aspects and our positive aspects. When we can really love ourselves, we have greater capacity to love another. And loving another it allows us to have greater loving communication.
So we teach 3 skills that promote loving communication. It's the iMessage skill, listening from the heart to understand, and communication balance. The first skill of iMessages means that we speak from our own experience. We actually use I. We're talking about I think, I feel, I have a story to tell. So we're owning our experience. We become clear about what we want, what we don't want, what we like, what we don't like. And when we become clearer about who we are, we're practicing self-love, because then we have a chance to communicate that with greater confidence in our loving relationships. One way to start with iMessages is to think about appreciations. Think about something you appreciate in your partner. One thing, it doesn't have to be huge. But when we start with appreciation, we're thinking about, I really appreciated you paying the bill and slipping it in the mail. I had a really busy day yesterday. Thanks. Or, I really appreciate you taking the dishwasher out. And when we use iMessages to express appreciation, we are actually entering a mindful loving pathway. And when we express daily appreciations, it makes it easier, not easy, but easier to address such things as difficult situations, having those tough conversations. We'll still be using iMessages because it maintains personal responsibility and respect for our partners.
And although it's easier to speak in I language, iMessages, when we're talking about love and appreciation, it is probably as important or more important that we use iMessages to communicate our feelings and our thoughts that are not so positive. When we're feeling angry or hurt or upset or frustrated, using iMessages in these situations is really important. It takes practice though, and it is difficult. When we get flooded with a lot of emotions from our negative feelings, we often are less capable of being as grounded and clear and level-headed as we want to be. However, it's just as important to do. So one of the things that can happen to us when we get flooded with negative emotions and really want to communicate using iMessages about our negative feelings is that we can slip into either camouflaged iMessages or disrespectful, messages. Those camouflaged iMessages may sound like an iMessage, but they really are not. They are saying things like, I feel that you are irresponsible because you didn't come home on time. The disrespectful you messages are even more blatant, saying, you are so irresponsible. I can't believe you never do what you say you're going to do. I can't trust you. There's the use of the word I, but it has very, very different meanings. And it leaves the partner feeling accused or judged, criticized. And when we hear a communication in which we feel judged or criticized, we can only either feel angry and respond with anger in return, or we shut down, or we just leave the whole situation. A better way of communicating is when we communicate saying things like, I feel hurt that you didn't come home on time. I got scared that you didn't call me. I was worried that maybe something might have happened to you. Can you hear the difference in those kinds of communications? The second one is not embedded with a lot of criticism or statements about the other.
It's not as much about the partner.
It's about self.
Exactly. It's really about your experience.
Right. And so it's very important to stay as grounded as we can in accepting responsibility for self when we speak, even about those negative emotions.
So we have a challenge for you. You already know what one of them is, and to really think about one thing that you do appreciate in your partner and put it out today. By the end of the day, have expressed that appreciation. The other side of that is think about something that you'd like to start with, something simple, not huge, but simple. This is what we've done, is put things together so that you can practice things in a simple fashion and implement them as soon as possible. It just takes one small step to change and make a huge difference. So think about a simple disappointment. One example is, I was upset when I noticed that we were both on our cell phones during dinner time. And I really want to set a better example for the kids. Can we talk about setting guidelines for our family's use of technology? So, you speak from that place of you're upset, you're not blaming, you're acknowledging, you're very specific when we were at the dinner table. And then you ask if we could get together and have some kind of resolution or some kind of negotiation. We believe that it's possible to take some of these small suggestions and implement them, that you're the storyteller of your own mindful, loving relationship.
So give it a try. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for joining us in this video series. We welcome you to leave comments or questions using the links below. And in the meantime, until our next meeting, we wish you mindful